What if marketing knew every interaction you ever had? Not just what you bought last Tuesday, not just your email address and your birthday. I mean every single touch point. Every time you abandoned a cart, every product page you lingered on for 30 seconds, every ad you actually stopped scrolling for, every complaint you whispered into a chatbot at midnight, every email you opened but never replied to. What if AI could remember all of it and use it every single time your brand tried to reach you? Welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad you're here for another episode of Marketing with AI with Rohit Shetty. Today, we are going deep and I mean, really deep into one of the most exciting and honestly, one of the most unsettling shifts happening in marketing right now. We're talking about memory driven marketing. Specifically, what happens when the AI systems powering your marketing stack don't just analyze data, they actually remember. They build persistent, evolving, long term profiles of your customers. And they use those profiles to craft experiences so personalized they feel almost uncanny. Now, I want to be upfront with you. This topic lives right at the intersection of brilliant strategy and real ethical risk. So, today we're going to explore both sides, the massive opportunity and the very real responsibility that comes with it. We'll break it into three parts. First, we're going to talk about what context memory in AI actually means, the technology, how it works, and why 2025 and 2026 are the years it crossed from experimental to essential. Second, we'll tackle the ethical challenges, and I promise you, these are not small issues. And third, I'm going to walk you through a practical strategy framework so you can actually use this stuff responsibly and competitively. Ready? Let's go. Context memory, what it actually means. From batch data to living memory. For most of marketing history, personalization meant segmentation. You put people in buckets. Bucket A likes sports. Bucket B buys premium. Bucket C is price sensitive. And then you send bucket A one email, bucket B another, and so on. That was fine. It worked. But it was fundamentally impersonal, right? Because a bucket is not a person. A segment is not a story. And a customer's relationship with your brand is absolutely a story with a beginning, middle, and an evolving plot line. What context memory changes is this. AI systems can now maintain a continuous, dynamic, longitudinal record of every customer interaction across every channel. Not a snapshot, a narrative. Think about how platforms like Netflix or Spotify have always felt like they knew you. That feeling comes from memory. They remember what you watched, how long, when you stopped, what you came back to, and they use all of that to predict what you want next. Now imagine that same intelligence applied across your entire brand experience, your website, your emails, your customer support, your ads, your app, your loyalty program, all of it unified, remembered, and used in real time. According to Salesforce's State of Marketing report, 84% of marketers now use AI for real time personalization, and 80% say AI helps them respond to customer needs more quickly. Teams using AI powered optimization see 30% higher ROI on advertising spend. The technical shift, long context windows, and persistent memory layers. So, how does this actually work on a technical level? Because I think understanding the mechanism is important, not just for technologists, but for every marketer who's going to be making decisions about these systems. Traditional AI marketing tools had what we'd call a short context window. They'd look at recent behavior last 30, 60, 90 days and make recommendations based on that slice of data. The model didn't really remember who you were 3 years ago, or the complaint you made 18 months back, or that you almost cancelled your subscription but didn't. Modern AI architectures have changed this dramatically. We now have two key advancements working in parallel. The first is the growth of long context windows in large language models. These are AI systems that can process and reason over enormous amounts of information. At once, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of tokens of customer history, in a single inference pass. That means the AI isn't sampling your history, it's reading all of it. The second is persistent memory layers, essentially. Database architectures specifically designed to store and retrieve compressed semantic summaries of customer interactions over time. These systems don't just log what happened, they encode why it mattered. They capture emotional signals, intent patterns, and preference evolution. By 2026, the convergence of AdTech and MarTech means personalization becomes universal. As Jed Hartman of Zeta Global put it in late 2025, the same intelligence powering your email should power your media, your website, your app, your offers, everything. What this looks like in practice. Let me give you a scenario. Not science fiction, this is happening right now. Imagine a customer, let's call her Priya. Priya first discovered your brand 3 years ago through a social ad. She bought once, then went quiet for a year. Then she came back during a sale, browsed a premium product, put it in her cart, and left. 6 months later, she emailed customer support with a complaint about shipping. It got resolved. 8 months after that, she downloaded your app, started a loyalty account, and has been a moderately active user since. In the old world, Priya's segment might be lapsed customer or price sensitive buyer. She'd get a discount email, generic, probably ignored. In the memory driven world, the AI has read that entire arc. It knows she's shown interest in premium products, but historically bought on discount triggers. It knows she had a negative shipping experience that was resolved. It knows her app usage peaks on Sunday evenings. It knows she responds better to product focused content than price focused content. So on Sunday evening, she gets a notification in the app, not a discount offer, but a new arrival preview for the exact product category she browsed 3 years ago, styled around a seasonal moment that fits her location. And it works, not because it was lucky, because it was remembered. 72% of consumers say they only interact with marketing that is tailored to their interests. And customers who receive personalized experiences are 40% more likely to spend more than they planned. Shopify, McKinsey data 2025. Here's something I want to really emphasize. This isn't a future trend anymore. This is now. 2025 was the year AI stopped being a marketing experiment and became marketing infrastructure. And 2026, according to virtually every major industry voice I've read, is the year AI becomes the operating system for marketing. Not a feature, not a tool. The OS and zero party data, that's data customers willingly share about their preferences, intentions, and needs, is becoming the new gold standard. Because when customers trust you enough to tell you what they want directly, combined with memory driven AI that knows what they've done, you get something close to perfect personalization. But here's where we need to slow down. Because all of this power comes with a set of challenges that you cannot afford to ignore. The ethical challenges where it gets complicated. I want to spend real time here, not just a quick mention of privacy so we can get back to the good stuff. Because I genuinely believe that the brands that will win over the next decade are the ones who take this section as seriously as they take the strategy section. Let's talk about 4 big ethical challenges in memory driven marketing. Challenge no one. The trust deficit is already real. Here's a number that should stop every marketer in their tracks. 70% of Americans say they have little to no trust in companies to make responsible decisions about how they use AI in their products. And 81% of consumers expect companies to misuse their personal information. That's from Pew Research Center and a December 2025 Reliance AI consumer survey of 10 plus US. Adults, let me say that again, 4 in 5 consumers assume you're already misusing their data. You haven't even done anything yet, and they've already convicted you in their minds. That's not a communications problem you can fix with a privacy policy link in your footer. That's a structural trust problem. And memory driven AI, with its implication of permanent, comprehensive data retention, has the potential to make that worse fast. The good news, and there is good news, is that transparency flips the equation. 3 in 4 consumers say they would be more willing to trust an AI system when assurance mechanisms are in place. More than 76% said they would switch brands for a company that could prove responsible data practices. Some consumers would even pay more. Transparency is not just an ethical choice, it's a competitive advantage. Challenge no 2: the surveillance feeling versus the service feeling. There's a very thin line, and I mean paper thin, between personalization that feels like great service and personalization that feels like surveillance. Think about the difference between these two experiences. Experience A: you walk into your favorite local coffee shop. The barista says, "Hey, the usual, you feel seen, you feel valued, you belong." Experience B: you're browsing a random website and an ad pops up referencing the exact conversation you had with your partner last night. You feel watched, you feel violated, you want to throw your phone out the window. Both are forms of the brand knowing things about you, but one feels warm and human, and the other feels invasive and creepy. The difference? Consent, context, and the customer's mental model of what's being tracked. Memory driven marketing can absolutely create that coffee shop feeling, but only if the customer understands and has agreed to the relationship. The moment people feel like data is being used that they didn't knowingly provide, you've crossed from service into surveillance. Stanford's 2025 AI Index report found a 56.4% increase in AI related incidents in a single year, 233 reported cases in 2024 alone. Public trust in AI companies declined from 50% to 47% year over year. Challenge: no 3 data minimization versus memory maximization. Here's a fascinating tension built right into the premise of this conversation. The whole value proposition of memory driven AI is the more it remembers, the better it performs. More data equals better personalization, right? But virtually every major data privacy regulation in the world is built on the opposite principle: data minimization. Collect only what you need, store it only as long as necessary, give customers the right to be forgotten. GDPR in Europe says this explicitly. CCPA in California. India's new Digital Personal Data Protection Act, the DPDPA. China's PIPL. As of early 2026, over 69 countries have proposed AI related policy initiatives or legal frameworks. The regulatory landscape has never been more fragmented or more serious. So the question for marketers isn't just what can we remember, it's what should we remember, for how long, and what gives us the right to remember it. This is not a hypothetical. If you're building memory driven systems that retain years of behavioral data across channels and you haven't mapped that against your regulatory obligations in every market you operate in, you have a problem. A potentially very expensive problem. Challenge no 4: algorithmic manipulation and the autonomy question. Last ethical challenge, and this one doesn't get talked about enough. When an AI knows you well enough, really well enough, it doesn't just predict your preferences, it can start to shape them. Because what you show, someone influences what they want next. What content they consume shapes their tastes. What products get recommended affects what they come to value. We've already seen this play out at a society level with social media algorithms. They remembered what kept you engaged, what triggered your outrage, your fear, your desire, and they served you more of it. Not because they wanted to harm you, because they were optimized for engagement without consideration for well being. Memory driven marketing has the same potential. If your AI is optimized purely to maximize conversion or revenue, and it has deep memory of what a customer's psychological triggers are, you're not in the business of serving that customer. You're in the business of exploiting them. And sooner or later, consumers, regulators, or both will notice. The brands that get this right will build something that's actually rare in marketing right now: genuine trust. The brands that get it wrong will build something they'll spend years trying to recover from. So, how do you get it right? That's what our final segment is about. The strategy framework, doing this right. Okay? You've sat with the complexity. Now let's build something. I want to give you a framework I call Merit 5 Principles for Memory Driven Marketing that is both effective and ethical. Let's walk through each one. M for memory by consent, not by default. The foundation of everything. Memory should be opt in, not opt out. And I don't mean the technically legal checkbox buried in a sign up flow. I mean genuine, informed, value driven consent. The best practice emerging in 2026 is something called the value exchange model. You tell the customer very clearly, here's what we remember about you, here's why, here's what you get in return, and here's how to change it anytime. That sounds simple. But most brands still treat data collection like a legal obligation rather than a relationship conversation. The ones who treat it as a relationship conversation are already winning. Practical step: audit every data collection point in your customer journey. Map what you collect, when, and how it's explained to the customer. Then ask, would a customer feel valued or violated if they knew exactly what was being captured here? E for evolving profiles, not static labels. One of the biggest mistakes in personalization is treating someone's past behavior as their permanent identity. People change, they grow, their needs shift. A customer who bought baby products 3 years ago might be deeply annoyed that your AI still thinks that's their primary interest. Memory driven AI should weight recency and relevance, not just volume. It should recognize when a customer's behavior has shifted and update its understanding accordingly. The goal is an evolving portrait, not a permanent dossier. This is actually one of the strongest arguments for giving customers visibility into and control over their own profiles. Let them correct the AI. Let them say, this is no longer relevant to me. That kind of collaborative profiling creates accuracy and trust at the same time. R for relevance over recall. Just because the AI remembers something doesn't mean it should use it. This is the difference between a thoughtful friend who knows when to bring something up and one who blurts out every piece of information they've ever heard about you at the worst possible moment. Relevance is a filter. Before the AI surfaces a memory in the context of a campaign or communication, the question shouldn't just be, do we know this? It should be, is this relevant right now? Does using this serve the customer or serve only us? Would the customer be comfortable knowing we use this? This is called contextual appropriateness, and it's one of the hardest things to get right in AI personalization because it requires judgment, not just data, which means it requires human review, at least at the level of setting guidelines and reviewing edge cases. 40% of shoppers are frustrated by the lack of human support in AI driven customer service, and 21% find AI recommendations unreliable. Human in the loop review remains essential to quality personalization. Tech Radar 2025, I for integrity in data architecture. This is the technical pillar. If you're building memory driven marketing systems, you need to architect them with privacy built in, not bolted on afterward. Privacy by design means your data retention policies, your access controls, your anonymization practices, and your compliance monitoring are all part of how the system works, not a separate compliance checklist that gets reviewed once a year. Practically, this means a few things. 1. Define retention windows. What gets remembered for 30 days, 180 days, 2 years, indefinitely, and why? 2. Implement data minimization at the model level, not just the collection level. The AI should work with the minimum representation of a customer needed to deliver personalization, not a maximally detailed shadow file. 3. Build audit trails so that if a customer asks, what do you know about me and how did you use it, you can actually answer that question. T for transparency as a brand asset. I've saved this for last in the framework because I want it to land with weight. Transparency is not a legal requirement you comply with reluctantly. In 2026, it is a brand differentiator you invest in strategically. The brands that are winning trust right now are the ones that explain themselves, not in jargon, not in legalese, in plain language. Apple built an entire marketing campaign around privacy, and it worked. Not just reputationally, but commercially. They made privacy a feature, not a footnote. What does transparency look like in practice? It looks like a plain language. Why am I seeing this? Button on every personalized recommendation. It looks like a customer facing preference center that actually works. It looks like regular proactive communication about how your AI uses customer data, not just buried in a terms update. Here's the business case in one line. More than 3 in 4 consumers will pay more for verified AI data practices. Transparency is literally revenue. So let's recap the merit framework quickly. M. Memory by consent, not by default. Make data collection a value exchange, not a legal extraction. E. Evolving profiles, not static labels. Wait recency. Let customers correct the AI. Treat personalization as a living relationship. R. Relevance over recall. Use memory only when it serves the customer. Contextual appropriateness is a filter, not an afterthought. I. Integrity in data architecture. Privacy by design, retention policies, minimization, audit trails baked into the system. T. Transparency as a brand asset. Make your data practices visible, plain, and a genuine point of competitive differentiation. This isn't about doing less with AI memory. It's about doing it in a way that compounds trust over time, so that the memory your AI builds becomes an asset the customer actually wants to give you, because they see the value coming back to them. Let me leave you with this. We are at an inflection point in the relationship between brands and consumers. For the first time in history, it is genuinely possible for marketing to feel the way great human service has always felt: attentive, helpful, remembered, seen. That's not a small thing. Think about the best service experience you've ever had. A professional who remembered your preferences without being asked. A business that knew your history and made you feel like you mattered to them. That feeling, that's what memory driven AI makes scalable. But the same technology, in the wrong hands or with the wrong values behind it, creates something quite different. It creates a world where every interaction is optimized for extraction rather than service, where memory is a weapon rather than a gift, where personalization is surveillance dressed in a friendly interface. The difference between those two worlds is not the technology, it's the choices the people behind the technology make, the values they encode into it, the questions they ask before they deploy it. We are in the year where those choices get made. 2026 is the year AI becomes the operating system of marketing, and the ethical defaults we set now will shape what kind of marketing ecosystem we live in for the next decade. My challenge to you: go back to your organization and ask 3 questions. 1. Do our customers know what we remember about them? 2. Do they feel served by what we remember, or would they feel surveilled? And 3. What would we need to change to make the answer to question 2 a clear, confident yes? Start there. And if you found this episode useful, share it with someone building a marketing AI strategy right now. The more people asking these questions, the better the industry we all get to work in. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, think deeply, market ethically, and keep building something worth trusting.